Hey guys, we're going to talk about 3 things that you can buy at garage sales, yard sales, flea markets that are old but are way better than the modern stuff. Alright, first, C-clamps. Dig yourself up some nice 70, 80-year-old C-clamps. Clean them up. And I tell you, the world of difference that you will see out of these is amazing. How tight these things clamp, how little slop there is in them. The modern equivalents compared to the old ones is night and day. I own quite a few Home Depot C-clamps, Harbor Freight C-clamps, and they're just, I thought they were good. There was a time when I thought they were great, but I no longer think that now that I have a pretty good collection of older ones. You know, of course, these things are going to always be rusty and dusty. You're going to have to clean them up, wire wheel them, oil them. You know, these are old, you know, a lot of them are cast iron, some of them are cast steel. Every once in a while you run into one that's forged steel, but these things, just the care they put into the threads and all that, just these things really are just smooth as can be, and they just lock down super tight, which unlike the modern ones, you can tighten them up, and there's just so much slop in the mechanism that they kind of wiggle loose and all that. Huge world of difference. I typically pay $5 to $10 for these at garage sales, and I buy them every chance I get. Next, if I can find it, small vises. Turn that around so you can read it. It's Apprentice. They've been out of business for like 60 years. Small bench mount vices are really awesome. They're portable. You can bring them to the work site. You know, they're really good for if you're working on something. You just need to hold something real quick. You can put these on your sawhorses, the gate of your truck. You know, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with these and make them really handy. You'll find these things often for really cheap because they're rusty, dusty, dirty. People think they're not worth anything. Sometimes they're pretty gummed up and they're not moving too good. They're very easy to clean up. They're very easy to lube and get going, and very handy. Once again, huge difference over modern equivalent. If I own 2, I think, Irwin brand, I think an Irwin and a Bessie, and neither of them are made in America, by the way, and I have them in the garage, and I use them, but you know what, in the end, they're very sloppy when you tighten them up on things, because there's so much slop in the screw. You know, there's a little bit of wiggle after you tighten them up, so you really have to crank them down super hard because they're always going to loosen up a little bit because there's just so much slop. That's not the case with these old ones. These old ones, man, they lock on. They lock on really tight. These people, when they built these things back then, really spent the time to make sure that mechanism was really good. So I always grab these. You will notice a world of difference. If you line this up next to your, you know, $30 Irwin, you'll never touch that Irwin again. These are just really good, and most of the manufacturers out there, the USA-made ones, you know, from especially pre-60s, are just dynamite. They're so smooth. They're so just big, heavy, bulky. You know, the jaws just glide on them, and when they lock onto something, they lock on. What a difference, you know. The true tell of a bad vise is when you see these handles bent to hell. And that's because there's so much slop in there that people have to crank them down really super hard to get them to hold. That, to me, whenever you see those like that, usually means that the vise is a crappy vise. And that's one thing I kind of look for. When you see a vise and it's been well used, but that handle isn't bent, it says to me that the action is very nice and smooth, and when it clamps, it doesn't draw back at all. Because that's what happens, guys. You clamp this up, and then there's just that little bit of wiggle in the threads, and then the jaws have that wiggle and you can't hold it. You know, having something with that nice smooth threads like that locks on tight. You don't have to crank it down. You don't have to hit that with a hammer and do all the things people do that ruin these things. So that is one thing I buy all the time. I use these older ones a lot more than I do my modern ones. It's very rare I use the modern ones anymore. And the only reason why I honestly use them is because they're actually, you know, permanently bolted into my bench. So if I'm doing something in that area, it's kind of like I'm not going to take it off and put another bench or another vise in its place. So, all right. Last but not least, drill bits. I have been doing, it's been my secret fetish. I know, I am a freak. Drill bits have been my new secret fetish. Once again, I always ignored these. Whenever I saw drill bits, and not just these square taper ones, but normal twist drill bits, I've always ignored them at yard sales and all that, and I really regret it because they are fantastic. I literally put these to the test this summer, or this spring. I bought a bunch of old ones. I got them in a bucket, and I started going through them, and what I did was I learned how to sharpen them. I took the time, did the research, and now I've learned how to sharpen them. So I sharpened a bunch and tested the dull versus the sharp. Huge difference. Massive difference. Took my sharpened bits, put them up against modern bits. Huge difference. These old one guys, you know, they're just built so much better. The accuracy in the tip and the angles and all that, so much better. You know, they cut so much better. And the best way to tell it, guys, is do this with a hand drill. Get an egg beater drill and use an old drill bit, because you'll feel more with the hand drill. You can actually feel the friction. You can feel the resistance. And when you do a new drill bit, like go use a Harbor Freight drill bit, like a really nice Home Depot bit, and one of these old bits, and you're never going to want to buy another drill bit again, new. It's a world of difference. And then when you learn to sharpen, and guys, you know how I learned to sharpen? On the broken ones. Actually, there was a lot of broken ones in the bucket. I used them to practice on. It took me, you know, a couple hours of practice. Now I can sharpen them up in a couple of minutes, and they do a really good job. Let's see if we can focus up close here. They sharpen up really well. And these old ones, man, they just hold an edge like you wouldn't believe. They just used such good steel back in the day. But yeah, I've learned to sharpen. Do it on the bench grinder. And yeah, I think these just vastly outperform anything else that you're going to get. The modern stuff, the Harbor Freight stuff, all that. You know, I thought those things were good and adequate, but no, these things just cut like butter. They hold that really good edge. I tried sharpening some modern one, guys, and once you like figure out, once you kind of learn like about the drill bit and how they cut, you look at the modern ones and you're like, ooh, that doesn't make sense. Some of them are just cut weird. Like they the actual cutting edge sometimes is below the rest of the steel. You know, there's almost like a hump. Oh my God, there's some really weird things you're gonna see with these modern bits once you kind of take a look at them. But yeah, these old one guys, I am hooked. Absolutely hooked. I will be buying these and sharpening these and not using anything modern probably ever again, because it is that big a difference, guys. And like I said, get yourself an old hand drill, get yourself an old one, get yourself a new one, try them out. You will notice the difference and you won't want to go back. So there it is, guys. 3 things I buy that really are older but a lot better than their modern counterparts.